All right, up next, Matt has kindly come back to give us a talk on Solana and their mobile phone.
All right. That's area. Okay, cool. All right. So this is just an intro slide. These are. I'm just doing an overview here. So be an intimate crowd here. We can be as interactive as possible. Feel free to ask questions. So if those not familiar with Solana, the main goal here is to reach global consensus as fast as the speed of light will allow. You can kind of just imagine if you want to make a worldwide marketplace, you don't want to have it in any one spot. Like anytime you have like a centralized server, everybody's going to consolidate to that area. So you want to have some sort of global distribution. Yeah, them all sync to the state. So you have everybody have roughly equal access to that information. That's Solana. So if you want to be able to have essentially a NASDAQ that South Africans and Koreans and Americans all have the same access. All right, but where are the users in the world? This is actually pretty old, but mobile phones just are largely starting to adopt. It's actually kind of like mobile phone any, and you have like feature phones and other like more granular mobiles, whatever. Basically, like mobiles like eating the world in terms of how humans are interacting with the internet. And yeah, so I guess the main point of this talk and probably even this whole session today is if they aren't able to interact with crypto, that's a miss. Kind of want them. Here's another like more meme chart. This is also like this ended in 2008, so it just keeps on going up. But you can just kind of see that like both the number of users on mobile and their monetization is just like ever increasing. Yeah. So and kind of what I mentioned earlier is like where are they? They're also like kind of all over. This is the map of the underwater cables that connect all of our countries together. And so this isn't strictly a mobile thing, but this is just it kind of describes how anybody, if like I message somebody from Pakistan, I can kind of like map out which underwater cables they go to. And this has latency ramifications kind of to the original Solana thesis. We actually think about this kind of thing a lot. How do we actually sync nodes as fast as possible, considering that there's latency and all these things? A little bit out of the scope of like the saga itself, but it is really important when you start thinking of network topology, user experience and stuff. If I'm really trying to have two people interact, like you see this in games all the time where you have localized servers, just because if you're across an ocean or something, the latencies can be really hard for certain applications. All right, so I think the main thing that really started the mobile craze or internally as we were thinking about it as a network is like, okay, you have this like incredibly mobile first interaction with the internet. They're all over the world, and we really want to sync them all, but how do we do it securely? Basically, I've had a few conversations already where most people just actually use just kind of like encrypted keys on a phone, and you're kind of beholden to a bunch of the phone's native security. You can't, or like the app level security on the phone, not the native like hardware level security. So that's what we've set out to do with the saga. Actually, I have one right here. Ta-da! Yeah. So why the saga? Like why ship a phone? That seems weird. You're a blockchain. Know your role. Okay. So it's really about the stack that we built. So the seed vault is like the main bread and butter of this, for the secure enclave. It needs to be, the reason why we had to build it ourselves is because you need the hardware manufacturer to allow for cryptographic signing in the seed vault, which is a separate piece of hardware. Then it just doesn't interact with the app layer. You can send it messages and say, hey, sign this thing, but you can't extract anything from it. Like you have to explicitly ask for things, and it can send you explicit messages back. But it is a very, very isolated and protected layer. The ability to sign. Yeah, being able to support all of these signature structures on Solana, being able to and just like the functionality of like how do you pass keys to it, like if you want to have all that stuff that's like customized to Solana signing. That's actually the goal. Yeah, the goal is to put pressure on them to do that. Yeah, the stack, the Seed Vault SDK is open source for that reason. We want them to do that. Yeah. The idea is to put pressure on them and Apple to. We even have an iOS implementation. Hopefully one day Tim Cook is like, hey, that looks really nice. Let's just implement it. Yeah. So there's nothing proprietary about this that we really want to. We want them to be able to, or we want them to just see demand. So it's like the phone isn't some sort of like monopoly on being able to understand Solana and cryptography or whatever. It is a showing that if you enable this functionality, that there's going to be enough demand for it, this type of thing, that the big manufacturers will want to just implement it because users want that kind of security directly in the enclave. The technology's already there, like you say. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So for people that don't know, like when you log into whatever device you have, you're probably, unless you have a really old device, you're using cryptography. Like your face scan or your fingerprint scan is using your key of your phone to like unlock that. And like when you do, I'll get into it a little bit. But like a lot of these things actually they just use cryptography already. The mobile wallet adapter, kind of like to your point, this is another just open source thing. It is a way to sync that signing, like that message passing to and from the secure enclave back to any app. So that's like the way that the applications know how to communicate with the Seed Vault. So you signed into this transaction, please sign this, and it comes back. So it's just an SDK to be able to do that simply. There's a lot of things under the hood that like would get more complicated if you had to do that a bunch, custom every time. So it's just a way of, it's like similar to like how a web application knows how to call Wallet Connect or whatever mobile, like whatever wallet adapter. It is just that for mobile. So this is a standard format to send transactions to the wallet later. And then Solana Pay for Android. There's a few other things that kind of like wrap into this layer. It's like it's basically a way to make well-formed transactions in that communicate with Android, and also have an app layer that you get a dApp store that is able to use that for payments. All right. So I guess I already kind of talked about this, but this is a fun graphic. Nice. Does anybody have any questions about the Seed Vault? All it is just like a secure, like you have this actually in the cloud too. Like Amazon Nitro is the way. They're just basically these secure enclaves. They're separated and encrypted by default places. Now, yeah, and if you are holding the physical device, then it's like quite literally separated. You can never extract the key back out. You may be able to, on genesis of the key, store it somewhere else. This is actually some like a user experience thing that we're toying around with. Like right now, you can just back it up with a paper store. But the idea is like, I don't know, maybe a better user experience is just to ship it with a ledger or Trezor or something like that, and then you can sync with that. So the user never even has to see a key. They just know they have some backup. Almost like having what are those things? I have one in my bag. There's like a little key fob. Just like any choose your favorite key fob here. Maybe that's actually the backup. And so if you ever lose your phone, you just use the key fob as to generate your keys. So maybe you would. It is compatible in the sense that if somebody just adds the R1 signing, then yeah, they would be compatible. We just haven't put the effort into making it, but the idea is just to have a very, the short answer is not today. The long answer is Solana itself is actually enabling the R1 curve to be able to sign for transactions on Solana. So you can have like an EVM address and then sign with your favorite EVM keys for Solana transactions. And yeah, so that would, in doing that, we'll put the R1 signing in the enclave. No, it's actually like it's a completely separate little chip. Like it's quite at the hardware level, it is separated. The, the chip, like if you're really making it secure, it is completely separate, not just like a VM or whatever. It is a completely separate environment. So you need that. That's why you need the manufacturer to be able to have that separate piece of hardware. It's usually a little chip. It's like it's not doing anything crazy except for it's like a little simple signing and stuff. So oftentimes it's just like a little, like almost like the tiniest little low power consumption chip and little memory bus. So it's usually not like carrying a bunch of memory or anything. But but they like I said, most phones already have them. It's just about what software is on them. Are they capable of signing things for blockchains? So the idea, like, Solana is fully supported for the Solana phone. Contracted this manufacturer called Awesome, OSOM. But any like we're in talks with like. Now, especially now, we're in talk. I'll get into it. We're in talks with like basically all of them because they have seen this displayed demand for this Laga phone. So the idea is that in their enclaves, we're trying to make it easier and easier for them to just add support for this. And then the goal is Bitcoin signing, Ethereum signing, whatever. Choose your favorite address here. Type of signing would be pretty easy to add. That one probably gets a little bit. I know that we've out of the box works on the Qualcomm chips, just because that's what Tolly and the team knows. A lot of them are from Qualcomm, so they do like Snapdragon, whatever things. But I don't know that. I don't know how. I don't know. This gets a little bit lower than my level of like how much of a lift it would be to do the other kinds. Yeah. Exactly. Right. So like, just like think of it like maybe ELI5 to not be completely technically correct. Like imagine you just have like a spam filter, some sort of filtering mechanism for these things, because they're not just gonna sign anything. So you have to like basically tell them what kind of format to expect that is a well formatted message to send. And so you need to, if you're gonna sign a blockchain transaction that just looks a certain type of way, and so they need to be able to handle that message correctly and sign for it correctly. And that's all this software does. It just basically allows to not block that message coming to the secure enclave and then sign it correctly. And so you just need to add more and more formats, so like whatever, EVM or Bitcoin or whatever. So we're just starting with SVM just because that's what we know. No. Yeah, correct. I mean, if it did, that's on them. Like they've done something wrong. I mean, this is just like basic math stiff. Here's a visualization of the mobile wallet adapter. Basically, it's a way like I'll actually describe the user experience today. So today, if I want to sign something, I either have to have some sort of embedded wallet, which has its own risks because then you're asking every single app to have its own wallet infrastructure, which is you're increasing the area surface, or you're having some sort of message passing or redirect to your wallet, into your like MetaMask mobile, and then back to the application, which is a really, really bad user experience. So you're kind of like picking between the two. You can't really just have an embedded wallet. Oh, the other thing is like if you have an embedded wallet, they're by definition pretty fragmented, because it's like hard for me to have the same key pair across all the different applications if each one is making their own app, so you have this like fragmentation and security issue, and versus like the at least more secure, but as we said, it's still even not completely secure because it's still encrypted at the app layer. It's just the mobile, like the MetaMask or Phantom or whatever, choose your wallet here. Those are handling the security, so it's a little bit better. But then you have this really bad user experience where they're having to pass back and forth, and users can get lost. And there's like a little bit less visibility there. Mobile wallet adapter allows you to use the keys are at the hardware level of the phone, so you're just calling that layer. So you don't have to worry as much about the user experience. You can have, like, basically embedded wallets are just way easier. You just know exactly what to call. Like similar to like, it becomes a little bit more like everybody's just using the same browser in a sense. That I am just using the native, the operating system of my phone, which is Android, and then I just call that address. And so I can have the same address across all my applications, and it's way more secure because you just use fingerprint touch or whatever flow. So it's way better user experience as well. So this isn't just a security thing; it's also just the user experience of being able to have, the same assets and the same stuff across all my applications. It's great. Yeah. So this is how it started. This is like a year and a half ago. I naturally colorized it because it was like a fun announcement of everything, and we sold it was like a decent amount. It was an okay amount, and then very low demand probably for like the months and months and months afterward. It was like okay. I would say like as a product launch, it wasn't as bad as like the Fire Phone. Like we sold enough to be like break even on hardware, and it was okay, but it was just a very, very, very niche thing. It didn't sell out, and then Bonk happened, and Bonk, like if anybody hasn't been paying attention, the meme coin economy on Solana or Casino, whatever you want to call it, economy, I don't know, it like popped off, and every Solana phone holder or buyer actually got an airdrop of it. And then at some point, I think, especially today, I think it's like 40-something cents. Like that airdrop was worth more than the phone. So that just that one. And there's a couple others that made whatever. So it sold out like instantly because everybody's like, oh, I can make $20 if I can spend $100 make $120. I'll do that all day. And so it just like basically instantly sold out. And then the team kind of pivoted because they didn't really know what to do next, actually, because they were like, well, we have, I think at the time they had like 10,000 unsold phones. So they're like, well, the demand's not quite here to do a second run. We still have 10,000 phones. And instantly it sells out, and you're like, actually, this model kind of works because then all of the other, not all, but like a ton of other applications were like, this model kind of makes sense. You have users that are willing to spend $800 on a phone. We're willing to airdrop to them. And you're like, okay, well, some of them are actually maybe not willing to spend $800. They're willing to try to make $100 or whatever. But whatever, like you have this weird model where you have a bunch of users who have displayed like some willingness to do some action, and you have a bunch of applications who want to have eyeballs on the users. What I'm describing here is basically like ads, just like in a different form. You squint a little bit, So it's just like a different way of doing this, where you're not necessarily doing an ad network. It's like entirely opt-in, but you have this instant, I don't know, different types of distribution, yada, yada, yada. The Saga 2 has, I believe, as of today, sold 120,000, which, if you're doing the math, that's more than the Apple Vision Pro. It's a different price point and everything, but it's like, doing pretty well. Yeah, anyway, so that's kind of hilarious. Like, as an Apple Vision Pro owner. Yeah. So like the thing here, I don't know. Like this, I'm not going to make any grand statement of like product market fit or whatever. But there's definitely a valid exploration here. Like, how do you get more devices, like more distribution channels, more users doing fun things, and more surface area to explore how to get product market fit? And that's kind of like where we are today. Where the amount of people and companies I interact with that want to interact with Saga 2, because now it's got 100 and, with Saga 1, like 150,000 people, of which is probably around 100, because there's KY, there is some anti-Sybil, so it's probably like, credit cards and other things, so it's probably not much less than 100,000 individual people. So it's like a decent distribution all around the world. Oh, that's the other thing. I don't know if I have quite the demographic numbers, but they're all around the world. And a lot of the new ones are in APAC. And the other interesting thing is we stopped taking credit card payments a long time ago. Everybody's paying for the Saga 2 in USDC. It's all crypto payments. So it's all crypto native. You get an NFT when you purchase it. So you have something on chain that represents everybody else in the ecosystem and knows. So they are starting to get airdrops before the phone even comes out. So that's part of the reason why there's so much demand for them, is that you have this like community of people. It's soulbound, so you can't trade it. So that the actual NFT of the phone, Saga 2 purchase itself, isn't tradable, but everything that you get is. So people are just like, forming little businesses and trading and doing a bunch of little like collectors things and forming communities around that. I don't know. People are figuring it out. Who knows? Who knows what's going to come of it? But at the core, it's still, I think that the real message here is securing this new, economy that we're creating on Edge. I think the thing, I didn't misspell that. ChatGPT did. Just saying. Anyway, so the other really cool thing that's happening in parallel, like I'm not going to say that we influence this, but if you use passkeys, that's asymmetric cryptography. That is the same type of cryptography that you use when you sign a blockchain transaction. I think that's really cool. Like, it's not exactly compatible with blockchains today, but I think that's what we're aiming towards. That's part of the reason why we're adding R1 support, like the signing support that is basically compatible with Apple passkeys. So then you can have a full wallet and be able to sign directly from your Face ID support and your touch phone support. Like that's coming. And yeah. Yeah. So Solana already has a pretty flexible signing model. This is like account abstraction is like this big hot thing in Ethereum, but that was always native for Solana. You can, as long as you verify it and like all the things check out, the thing that you need is being able to pay the fee. So you just need to be able to pay that. That's the only thing at the protocol level that it really expects, but as long as you do that, it's fine. And so, so it's not a big change on a protocol level. You can have a kind of abstraction wallet that does different signing, and you actually pay through a PDA if you want to get technical. So you can actually have a smart wallet pay for you some certain amount, or relayers and all these other things that is like native on Solana. So there's a lot of flows that work with this pretty seamlessly, and but the cool thing here is that like the users are already getting used to flows that use cryptography instead of username password. You're clicking on a 1Password link or whatever your passkey setup is, whether it's a key fob or whether it's some other flow. Like the people are getting used to just signing things as opposed to typing in a keyboard, typing in a username password. And the more people do that, like I'd actually argue right now, like one of the bigger barriers isn't necessarily like people talk about user experience in a way that's like, oh, you have to memorize this thing, but this is asymmetric cryptography. Like whatever is being built for this, presumably can also be used in some form for blockchain transactions. It might be something where it's like your hot wallet or something and you have some cold wallet that still needs the mnemonic and all that other stuff, but you could use these for the hot wallets, and you can do something like, one of the things that we're working on is making it so you have, as part of a smart contract wallet where they're both attached. You have this you may not know the keys of this, so you may lose the phone and may not be able to recover it, but it's attached to some wallet that can, and they have the same signing permissions over the same assets and stuff. So you still have a backup through another key pair that can still sign for the same assets. So it's a way to like make it really user friendly for people to get up and running, and then once they get enough assets or whatever they want to, or like once they care enough about the security of what they have in this wallet, they can add a more deep layer of security later. But it's permissions the entire time is the interesting part here. You don't have to go through some intermediary step that takes some like, hand wavy. This is always self-sovereign. It just, the security model and the risk starts off a little bit higher. But that's like a little bit different than like the Magic Link or the secure enclave of like AWS type of models where they start off with like emails. That starts off like very beholden to a certain entity and then you try to move the user for more self-sovereignty. This is kind of the other way, where it starts self-sovereignty and just a little bit riskier because you could lose the device and not have a recovery, and then has recovery tools later. So anyway, all this is to say is that like the more tools that get built around people doing asymmetric cryptography is just awesome for crypto, I think. The other thing that we're seeing is a lot of applications, like DPIN is also doing really, really well on Solana. And we're seeing a lot more people come up with apps that like basically makes your phone into a workstation. So there's a company called Synesys One that does annotation. So it's like text annotation. You do some annotation of a sentence, like this is a action sentence. This is whatever. I don't know all the annotation. But they pay you to annotate sentences, and they're moving on to images and other things like that. And you can do it from your phone. And so there's other companies. One is called Secure Tool. There's a bunch of others. They're making little applications so that they permissionlessly, by the way, that they can tap into that underlying protocol and train people and give different UIs for people to do those annotations. So you have this is like starting of a decentralized economy where people are figuring out how to make the mobile phone into a workstation for people in different regions, whatever localization that might be. And I think that's a really interesting idea because it's not just Synestis One, there's other parts of data capture. You could host different types of nodes or whatever it might be, like a Helium hotspot or a Hive mapper dash cam or whatever it might be. And you have them all in one place where the user can kind of like pick and choose which ones they want to take part of. And it can start, it could be a teleport driver. I don't know if anybody's seen that. Like, you can have this this phone, again, this phone is a workstation where you can kind of pick and choose what kind of applications you want and you can get paid all in one place. So that's why it's important too. This is just like a separate parallel thread where there's just interesting applications that work really well on mobile. Yeah. Anyway, that's it. That is my spiel. Any questions? Oh, I mean, because it's cool. Because you get an NFT. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, there's nothing about the Solana phone that we're trying to make some sort of proprietary signing mechanism. We're just doing it until someone else does. And then I don't know if it becomes if phones become secure and awesome places for crypto, we'll have one. That's just good. And we are going to do that fight until it gets there. That's the idea. That's what I'm saying. We're adding it. Yeah, we're just adding that curve. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah. So that's part. That's it. Yeah, that would be. Yeah. Yeah. But if you wanted to use your existing Solana address, then you wouldn't be able to insert it into a non-Saga phone. So if I want to take my existing like cold wallet or whatever, any existing SVM wallet, I would either have to add it to an account abstraction layer that then the phone could tap into, or I would use a Saga phone and I could do it directly.
Well, it sounds like you were less interested in creating a business lock-in and more you wanted to prove that this could be done and push the market forward.
Yeah, there's no business lock-in. We don't have any of that. I mean, I guess the business lock-in is like the original NFTs are kind of cool and there's some power there. I don't know, but we don't own any of that. That's the thing. I think that's the other thing that we're trying to show here is that like we are not owning the user here. There's nothing about this that gives us proprietary information. I think that's the key distinction between the way that we're doing this and like an Apple and other like applications own their users and their logins and all this stuff. Like when you're like at the core of all this is you can own digital things with crypto. You can't really in any other way. Everything is guarded by a digital, like a terms of service. Like the closest thing is probably like, I was thinking about this the other day actually. I think the closest thing is maybe like copyright law, because that governs like IP, which loosely can govern digital things. But there's no way to me to literally own any digital asset in the world other than cryptography. Like other than blockchain. There needs to be a way for people to agree and me be able to act on that thing. And blockchain is the only way of currently doing that. Everything else, it's brokered by a social app, Google storage. You know, it's all behind its terms of service. The only things I technically kind of own is like digital things on my phone, but that's like kind of useless. It's just because that's more me owning the phone itself, not necessarily the digital items on it. So yeah, the idea here is to just have a business model that's native to that value prop. So it's not, and that value prop is quite literally us not owning anything. So we're just trying to serve a business that shows that you can have access to powerful, like to users, and just generate services for them, and just kind of we're figuring it out too, to be clear. But like give free access to this, and then the idea is that a bunch of people will build awesome stuff around it, and the ecosystem will just have more value. That's kind of what's happening with the meme coin stuff on Solana. Like I wouldn't call it the most aspirational thing ever, but it is like a digital casino that you have hundreds of different businesses trying to figure out their own little part of it. There's DeFi next to it. There's different distribution models, and they're all permissionlessly acting on it. Nobody was like, "Oh, I'm going to make a digital casino. I'm going to make it meme coins. I'm going to like." Everybody's just doing their little thing, and so the more like, and I think that's why a lot of traditional businesses fail at crypto, is because they don't really understand that it's not about owning a whole stack and like now you can just trade stuff. Like you really kind of need this collaborative environment to work. So if you started owning any of it, then or trying to own too much of it, then you might as well just not be on crypto anymore. So that's kind of what we're showing with this too, is like, yeah, we're not trying to own any or make any of it super proprietary. It's like trying to show people that the way to actually be successful is to not do that. And then just allow bonk to moon. Yeah. Yeah. I think they're actually going to kind of converge, I would say. I think at the beginning, of course, passkeys, I think, or normal people are just using passkeys now, which is great. So I think that will, at least in the near term, be like the winner, and everybody's going to kind of gradually converge to that. You already see a bunch of like other wallets starting to use passkeys as part of their flows. Particle Network, there's a few others that are, I think, that are using it. Yeah. I don't know their exact measure. Yeah. But I guess maybe to address another part of your question, I guess maybe this is like a Solana thing. We're gonna take 1 million shots on goal. 5 of them are gonna work really, really, really well. 50 of them might work moderately well, and we're gonna fail a lot, and that's cool. Like we're fine with that. Well, I mean, the real answer is probably a bunch of degen ones like, hey, can you show my token and like an app layer or whatever, an icon, or like, there's like a bunch of stuff like that. I guess like an actual feature set. I mean, I think if things that are like honestly aren't possible, people want to be able to do stuff like within Apple Wallet and a bunch of things that like we don't own anything about like at like an actual iOS application layer, we can't really do anything. So there's there's just no possible way of doing it. But that is the most thing. Like the minute these things start being like linked and being tied to their user, their like iOS is explicitly putting in part of the user flow, like that's just everything just takes off. And you can still trigger like Face ID and stuff. You can still trigger those things and stuff, but you can't have it part of like their native features and all their other monetization and have it like really user friendly and part of their normal flows and stuff. So you're gated from certain user flows. But that's probably the most one that like would be great. It's just hard when you have such a insulated ecosystem. Yeah, cool. Cheers all.